said I want to go back to trial on the murder charge, so I can go back to trial on the other case because they were both tried in front of one jury, and I'm innocent of all the charges.
Right.
They said, "Oh no, the murder's over and done with. This dismissed," and they left me sentenced to 30 to 60 years. I dropped the bomb on them. The most time that I could get on those other charges was only 10 to 20, and at that point I had 11 years in. Well, I never cared about the sentence. I always fought for my exoneration.
Yeah.
When I dropped that bomb on them, they brought the murder charge back in 1994, and the judge sentenced me to life, and he just ran it concurrent with the others. He says, I'm only doing what was meant to be done. And if I'm wrong, the higher courts will tell me I'm wrong, but that's all I'm doing right now. I was sentenced in a matter of 20 minutes. Never had a pre-sentence investigation, no pre-sentence report. 30 years later, I go for parole. Parole was denied in 2014 because I would not say that I committed the crime. But I'm arguing I'm innocent. I didn't do it. So they gave me an 8-year hit, and under the old law in New Jersey, you have to do half of whatever the hit is they give you.
Okay.
So I went back in 2018. By 2018, they're tinkering with the New Jersey Innocence Review and Study Commission legislation, which never got off the ground. And the Attorney General at the time, who was an Indian Sikh, he formed the Conviction Review Unit. And the biggest issue that I had with that is that he appointed Carolyn Murray, a former prosecutor, former judge out of Essex County, New Jersey, as the director. So, I'm all about challenging. I'm all about making moves. I'm all about, standing up. And as I told you, let's fast forward to my petition on change.org and her being removed from the Conviction Review Unit. So this is where I am now, 41 years now, going on 42 years. And I'm seeking my exoneration. I got the governor. I spoke to the governor on air last year, April. Governor Murphy, I was able to speak to him on Nancy Solomon's program on NPR.
Okay.
And he said, I told him what's going on with the CRU. Of all the time, at that point, they had only exonerated one person for the entire state of New Jersey. So he said, okay, Ronnie, so I'm going to give you my chief counsel, and you will be hearing from him within the next 24 hours. Well, it's like you get the highs and, boom, you're all the way up there. So I spoke to his chief counsel, Paramount Garg, and Paramount Garg tried to get somewhere with the CRU. He saw that they were not cooperating. They were not being straight up. They were not being fair. So Paramount Garg told me to file for the pardon. Which I did in February. I said, but I'm not just seeking a pardon. Even though in New Jersey, a pardon declares you innocent and you can still get paid. I said, I'm seeking my full exoneration. I want the CRU to be the ones to exonerate me. So I filed for that pardon in February of this year. And I'm a member of the National Action Network. I attended the conference in April 2024, and I actually saw the governor of New Jersey, and I saw the Attorney General. I did not try to make contact with either one of them, but I'm sure of all the people who had flyers and whatnot that was put out, I'm sure that they received mine. But more than that, I'm sure that they know who I am, and they have had discussions about me. And my evidence, Exhibit A, is the director of the CRU was removed. Now, I have two very, very high-profile, very top lawyers that are representing pro bono. One of them is Eric Kleiner, who also represents the National Action Network. And the other one is Robin Lord. Robin Lord is like New Jersey's female white Johnny Cochran. She is not to be effed with. She is a top lawyer.
Okay.
So when the CRU sent me back, they said, look, you still have a DNA motion. Go back and exhaust that. And I knew right then and there that they were playing games because they could have took over the entire case and did the DNA testing. And they probably did. So when I went to court, the judge was so like thrilled to have Robin Lord in her court. She played the song "Hail to the Chief." Dun, 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 dun,
Yeah.
dun, 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 dun. She said, "Miss Lord, did you hear what I played? Did you hear it? Did you hear it?" And one of the clerks came on and said, "No, Your Honor, she didn't hear it. She hadn't come on yet." And so she played it again. I was like, wow, you know. So the judge was inclined now after like 23, 24 years to grant me the DNA testing. The prosecutor stood up and said, "Well, Your Honor, if you grant this motion, the state is going to appeal." And so that would have meant another 2 or 3 years dragging on. So I told Robin, I said, "Listen, this DNA issue ends today. I dropped in the DNA motion so that the conviction review unit may go forward and exonerate me." And just as I thought, Carolyn Murray, the director of the CRU, issued a April Fool's letter on April 1st, 2022. And it got it so wrong. She said that I was seeking DNA on a case that I was never charged with. That's wrong because I was charged with it, but it was dismissed. But then it came back and it was used against me in my death penalty trial. She says, even if we do DNA testing, it would not exonerate Mr. Long. That was not only wrong, but it reflected an ignorance on her behalf, on her part, because you have to first do the DNA testing and then get the results back, and then you could tell this man is innocent. And she also said that the evidence is lost, so therefore we can't do the DNA testing. That is also wrong because I was a pest. I used the Open Public Records Act, which is equivalent to the FOIA, the Federal Freedom of Information Act. And I discovered it right in the Atlantic County Sheriff's Office, right where it was supposed to be. So Carolyn Murray issued that letter, getting it so wrong. I told both my lawyers, Eric Klein and Robin Lord, I said, she's got to go.
Yeah.
They said, yeah, well, good luck with that. Okay, well, I didn't need luck. You know, she was gone after I put the petition on change.org. So, you know, they was like, wow, she's gone. Yeah, she's gone. I have always been a hellraiser, a shit starter. I'm in the law books. When I went to death row, they didn't have a legal access program. So I filed a lawsuit and I set up the legal access program. I'm in the law books on that, 1988. And the judge ordered a copy of that to be distributed to every prisoner on death row in 1988, January 1988. And so I've always been one to, you know, they say making waves, I say making sense. And so, you know, I was well hated. I was very well hated, but I was respected because, you know, I can dance with some of the best lawyers and judges, you know, and, you know, I learned from the dub. When I was in the Marines, I wanted to be a lawyer, and I studied the Uniform Code of Military Justice, and, you know, I took that into jail with me, you know, that I know how to write briefs, I know how to write motions, you know, I know how to do all that stuff. And so I've been making noise from the first day that I was arrested. You know, I had no choice. When you're in a situation where you have lying public defenders and you know they're not going to put up any defense for you, they kept saying, listen, take a deal, take a deal. They kept coming with lower and lower and lower plea bargain. Throw the murder charge out and cop out to shooting the guy that told him that it wasn't me. I said, I'm not taking a deal. I don't care what it is, even in the face of death. And that's, you know, that started my journey on the death row. Now, as I said, the prosecutor and Jubilee recruited one of my lawyer's other clients, the jailhouse witness. So that threw my lawyer off the case after, you know, over 2 years. And they kept saying, take a deal, take a deal, take a deal. You're not going to win. Take a deal. I said, I'm going to trial. I went to trial and I testified. I was on the stand for about 10 hours. Prosecutor tried to catch me in a lie about anything. In the end, all he could say was, well, who would have the biggest motive to lie? You could say that about anybody on trial, but I took the stand, and I with, I withstood the grueling cross-examination by the prosecutor. And he was a very good prosecutor. He was dirty, but he was a good prosecutor, a good lawyer. He pranced around the courtroom trying to talk with black swagger, and if you can just imagine. And he says he had a big demonstration board in the wall of the courtrooms. Look, Ma, no race. This case is not about race. Ronnie Long don't discriminate against his victims. He shoots white people and black people. He's an equal opportunity shooter. And he just played that race game.
Right.
So in 1990, when the New Jersey Supreme Court granted me a new trial, they said that this racist nonsense would not happen again. Well, never got the new trial. And they got all of the time out of me, plus denied me parole. I had clean disciplinary history. Other than the fights that I got into in the county jail, I had a clean disciplinary history for all the time that I was in prison. And so in 2018, when I went up for parole, I went before a 15-member parole board panel in New Jersey. And each person took their time asking whatever questions. They all had stacks of papers in front of them. And they asked me everything. Only thing I had in front of me was a bottle of water and a microphone. And I refused to touch that water, and I refused to take a break. So we went straight through.
Right.
They kept saying, Mr. Long, you want a break? Mr. Long, you want a break? I said, no, I'm good. I'm good. But the best thing they did was they brought me a room full of college interns, kids. And when I walked in and saw all them kids, I was like, hey, they just don't even see what's coming.
Right.
I took over the room, Renee. I took over that room. And by the end of the parole hearing, they believed me. And they said, Mr. Long, we cannot exonerate you, but we will parole you. So for the first time, I saw at least partial freedom because I was coming home. I called my mom, and I told my mom I'm on my way home. So
I'm glad you made it home, brother. It's been a long, it's been a long one. But I'm glad that you're on this side, and I definitely believe that you're gonna get the exoneration that that you deserve. So I want to ask you, like, what can we the people do to support or assist you?
Well, I can be assisted by having people reach out to the Attorney General of New Jersey, Matthew Platkin, and reach out to the New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy. That's what I want. Now, they already know about my situation, but knowing about it and doing something about it are two different things.
Right.
So, I stood firm all of these years. Everything that I said is true. I would not put my reputation on the line. I would not make a fool of myself. And, as I explained to Sharpton when I became a member of NAN, that I would not embarrass NAN. I don't have anything in my jacket, the typical stuff that people have for being in prison for a long time. I was a lawman, so I had a lot of power. I didn't have to get in any trouble. Right. And I not only was well respected by the prisoners, but I was well respected by the officers because, I was one of those stand-up guys, not only a veteran. Right. I challenged the Trenton State Prison, back in the 90s for what they call sick building syndrome. And EPA sent these guys in there with these big, gigantic suits on, if you can imagine. They had on these big, giant suits. So the officers look like, well, damn, if they got suits on and look like spacesuits, they walked out and locked the prison down. So they had a lot of respect for me. A lot of officers would come to me if they want to move up the rank from officer to sergeant. That came to me. I showed them, the New Jersey Administrative Code. I taught I taught law classes, but I taught officers how to interpret the administrative code. And I watched young officers become sergeants, and then I helped sergeants become lieutenants, and then I helped one lieutenant in particular become an assistant administrator. And these are all brothers that look like me, black. Right. So I had a lot of respect on both sides because that was the hand that was dealt to me, you know? Yeah. And that was how that was how I just played it. I had no choice. It's like you survive or you don't. Yeah. And so, and I'm still surviving even everything that I'm going through right now. Definitely. I was very, very healthy when I got locked up. Now, 65-year-old man, diabetes, hypertension, and all the old man stuff. Yeah. And I'm seeking my exoneration so that I can have access to better health care. Yeah. There's another Ronnie Long in North Carolina. A lot of people got us mixed up because, we had the same name. We had DNA issue. Both our cases involve race, except his case is in North Carolina. Mine is in New Jersey. Right. So we met back in 2012. And his girlfriend came up to Pennsylvania, stayed with my mom for 4 months to work on the Free Ronnie Long campaign in New Jersey and North Carolina. Mm-hmm. I came home in 2019. He came home in 2020, fully exonerated from the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals. And in January of this year, the other Ronnie Long got $25 million. And I was like, whoa. And the one thing that he said that I agree with, he said, now that I got my exoneration, I will have access to better health care. And health care is a very serious thing, especially for black men, elderly black men. So that's one thing that I'm pushing is for my exoneration, I want to get access to better health care. My dad passed away the day after the election in 2020. Mm-hmm. Down in Florida. So I voted in Pennsylvania and I flew down to Florida, let my dad know that Trump lost. And, next morning my dad passed away. I want to be able to purchase a gravestone with my dad's name on it. And that's one of the things that I look forward to doing is, present my dad with a good headstone with his name on it. Everybody else got one. Right. So, yeah, for sure, bro. You gonna get that. I appreciate you for my mom will turn 90 in October. Oh, she turning 90? Okay. She will turn 90 October 5th. She's a pioneer. My mom was the first black female detective in the Philadelphia Sheriff Department history. Oh, wow. And she also gets the credit as being the arresting officer in my case because I turned myself in with my mom. Right. And my mom said, if you didn't do it, we're going to back you, Yeah. Well, fast forward now. We have a black female sheriff of Philadelphia. We have a black female police commissioner of Philadelphia. And we have a black female mayor of Philadelphia. So I already got the sheriff on board. She's going to present my mom with her retired detective badge at the party in October. But the surprise I'm trying to work on now is to get the police commissioner and the mayor to also be there because my mom is a pioneer in Philadelphia history. Yeah. So that's things on my my right now list. Right. Is to honor my mom's 90th birthday. She only get 90 one time, and put a headstone on my dad's grave. Sure. And those are things that are needed. Now, I want to relate something else to you. And, I don't want anybody to feel sad or sorry for me, but my son, Ronald Long Jr., was almost 2 years old when I was arrested. He was 38 when I came home. And he's also, he went in the Marine Corps veteran because his dad is a Marine. And on the night of my party, I begged my son, Ron, come to my party. Wear your Marine Corps dress blues. Honor me at my party. Come to my party. Ron was like, nah, I'm going to let everybody else have you. And then I finally got my dad back. We had a 4-day weekend when I came home in May 2019. On the night of my party, my son drowned. He jumped in the water to save somebody else's life, and he drowned. And that is one thing that, when I tell you about the anger, that's one thing that that I've been dealing with. It's like my son, he's gone. My daughter, she was 7. She get ready to turn 49, and she's a superwoman in her own right. She lives in Maryland. She's a insurance lady, Medicare. If you see her on social media, my daughter is Jerry Taylor, Jrie Taylor. That's my little girl, and she's like the boss, but losing my son, like within less than 30 days of coming home from prison after all of those years in prison, is something that I continue to deal with and struggle with. I can never get those years back, but I can never get my son back either. So, I just want to turn the spotlight on to my situation in New Jersey, and I want to get that intervention that's long overdue. And as I said, I have receipts. I have all my legal papers going all the way back to 1983. And, I presented them when I went to the CRU in 2019. I made copies for everybody in the room. One of my supporters is former governor of New Jersey, Jim McGreevey. So he escorted me there. Terrence Jones, who escorted me. Sister Gail Muhammad escorted me. And Gail Muhammad, she's been on the front lines for over 30 years for families of New Jersey prisoners. And, they were like, the 3 top supporters in that room. So, and the reason I took them, well, Terrence Jones, he actually spoke as an expert regarding like ballistics and all that stuff like that. But, Gail Muhammad just sat there, and her presence was like really intimidating, because they know who she is. Gail would call a march, boom, and, shut it down, So Gail is one of my supporters. Terrence Jones and former Governor Jim McGreevey, who's now running for mayor of Jersey City, New Jersey. And, I thought that they would take me serious. Now, when I went into the hearing at the CRU, Carolyn Murray, the director, former director now, said, let's keep this under wraps while I get the prosecutor's file. And I was like, okay. Well, the prosecutor at the time was Damon Tyner, African-American black man. And Damon Tyner was under all kinds of investigations for nepotism and workplace harassment, sexual harassment of women prosecutors in the Atlantic County Prosecutor's Office. He was under state and federal investigations, and I believe those investigations are still currently underway because he hasn't been charged yet. He moved from one spot to the next. But Damon Tyner fought to block me from getting DNA testing to prove my innocence, and he was the head black prosecutor in Atlantic County. I'm going for his head too. And the last thing I'll say is that the 2 attorneys that they assigned to represent me in my death penalty trial, they had less than 90 days to prepare to represent me in the death penalty capital murder trial. One was James Jackson, who's black, and the other one was John McFeely, who's white. Jackson just left the Atlantic City Solicitor's Office to become my lawyer, and McFeely had just left the Camden County Prosecutor's Office, went into private practice. So those are the 2 lawyers that I had in my death penalty trial, and it's it's no wonder that I was convicted and that I was sentenced to death. Prosecutor described me as, since I got into a lot of fights in the county jail, the prosecutor described me as somebody who's so dangerous that other criminals in super maximum Trenton State Prison would not be safe around me. And when he made that statement at the time of my trial, I was 27 years old, I started smiling like, oh man, this is like really crazy. And that smile condemned me because it made them take the position of look at him, see, look at him. And I was not a big dude when I went to trial. When I got locked up, I was only 135 pounds. 6 feet, skinny, 135 pounds. But a formidable opponent, pugilist, put it like that. And I was defending myself. I had no choice. Nobody was going to take my manhood, and nobody was going to take anything from me. And the first person who fell victim to my tirade, I didn't even know how big he was. He was a big dude. He had took my tray, and he was sitting in, the bench. They had the benches where you sit in the benches, and then you have the bars there, and then you had a table and whatnot. So when I didn't get a tray, I said, "Yo, man, you got my tray?" He said, "You better get away from me, big dude," but I didn't know how big he was. So I walked down to the end, splashed some water on my face, and then I came back. And when I was within striking distance, I let him have all that I had. And after the first punch, he was shocked. But then I hit him like a series of punches. Everybody started screaming. The guards came running. And when they took him out, when they carried him out, I saw how big this dude was. I was like, oh, Lord, I'm in trouble now. But I had to keep that mean face. And I had to keep that mean reputation. And that mean reputation didn't look too good to white jurors. It just did not look, it was a bad look. But in prison, it was not a bad look because, size does not mean anything. Big dude can be brought down too. Even if you use a 5-pound or 10-pound dumbbell or something like that. It's a really, really dangerous world that I survived in. And I made everybody listen, and I made brothers become conscious. I taught law classes, and this is the last thing. When I was a kid, I learned the entire "I Have a Dream" speech by Dr. Martin Luther King. I was born in 1958, and I'm from that era. So every year after getting off the death row, I would recite I Have a Dream speech for Black History Month or for the holiday. And, I was a factor. People was like, how do you learn all the words to the speech? I said, well, if you can learn all the words to a song, you can learn all the words to a speech. And that's what I've been living all of my life. I've been civic minded. And even right now, home, I work on the polls on election day. I'm an election defender. Talk people down if people start getting into arguments and whatnot. I'm not going to try to break up any fights. I'll call the police. But I'm civic minded, and I'm part of the process. So that's who I am, Jerry Renee.
I appreciate you for sharing with us. That's a lot, and
I know.
I hope that everything that you want comes to you quickly.
Okay.
Most definitely. And we support you. We the people support you. So
Okay.
It's a matter of time.
I don't know if this is appropriate or not, but I want to give out my Cash App. DJ Elf7, told me just, get your Cash App out. And if people want to help you, they help you. If they don't, they don't.
Right.
So, I have to lose by that. My Cash App was my prison number for all of those years. $201749, capital RL. You'll see my face. You'll see my picture.